Now by co-host of the Sims Complete podcast and former NFL quarterback, Matt Sims. Matt, thank you so much for hopping on, man. I'm excited to talk about Cam Ward tonight.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, Chris. Hey, congrats to both of us. We were just talking pre-show. We were able to get our kids down to bed at least a decent hour. You got an hour ahead of me, and still you were able to do it more efficiently than I was. But hey, kudos to you, man. You got the victory tonight.
It's not always a victory, that's for sure. But I will take a win, getting the kids to bed when I can get one.
That's right.
Make sure you follow Matt at Sims Complete on social media. Sims Complete podcast with his dad Phil is all wherever you get your podcasts. That's where you can check out Matt. They just dropped an episode on the year 2 jump for guys like Cam Ward and guys like Jackson Dart. Go check that out. That's actually available on the Bleav in Titans feed as a bonus episode. So you don't have to go too far to check that out. Please make sure that you do that. I want to talk about that specifically, Matt, the jump from year 1 to year 2. Cam Ward's got a new system and new coaches. And obviously that's not ideal for a guy going into his second year because that's the year everybody thinks you're supposed to take the leap. What's that pressure going to be like for Cam Ward coming off of 2-3 win seasons in a row for this franchise and expecting to be the savior, basically?
Yeah, I think one thing, Chris, overall that has changed recently, right, in how we view the game is a little bit of that conversation and narrative, right? Like, there are guys, no doubt, that congratulations to them. They are blessed to having a consistent coaching staff their entire career. But the truth is, and for the majority of the NFL, it's pretty turbulent, even when you are damn good. Even when you do have a star quarterback, even when things are going well, you're losing people to just the overall competition and really just how volatile every offseason is with the coaching staffs, right? So, I think we kind of have to start to separate ourselves from like, man, it's so much new. Hey, Cam Ward's transferred college a few different times. He's learned a few different offenses at this point. So even the culture of football is way more adaptable year to year than it's ever been. And, that's where I feel like too, like, hey, it's going to be a great opportunity. I'm really excited for Cam Ward because there's nothing better than getting all of these trials and tribulations and being burned by the fire. And then all of a sudden being like, wow, yeah, you know what? Coach Saleh is a really good defensive coach. You know what? Coach Daboll is a good offensive coach. Oh, yeah. And he's also pissed off because it didn't go well in New York, and that's what I love too about Cam Ward. He is like naturally just like a guy that is always on edge. Yep. And I like quarterbacks that are like that. If I was drafting quarterbacks, I would like quarterbacks are a little bit of that disposition.
Yep.
And I like that he cares. I like that he shows that he cares.
Yep.
And so I think, hey, everybody in the NFL is kind of in the same boat. And that's the thing too. Even with the guys like Drake May, right, and Josh and what they were able to do a year ago, like whatever Drake think, this really went well last year. Hey, all of that stuff this upcoming season might not work at all. And I think that's what's really fun, for the adaptation of every team, every season to build into the roster, to the construction of it, what's working, what's not working, how that looks. But, for Cam Ward, I think ultimately his ability to just slow down, right, his play style at the NFL level is really where you started to see, like in the last 6 weeks of the year, okay, this guy's got something. He's got some real talent. We saw the talent, but now the talent's starting to understand just the style of the game and how different it is compared to college football. So no doubt a challenge, but not insurmountable. And I think he's in a really good spot because he's got a few coaches that are really, eager to prove themselves. And that's a good position to be in.
He does, and we're going to talk about them in just a minute because I want to hit on that. I think it's a very important point for Titans fans, including myself. But about Cam Ward, and you talked about his preparation and the chip on his shoulder and that dog mentality that he has. If you're watching the quarterback series on Netflix right now that just dropped earlier this week, he got under some fire with the media for calling out his teammates after a rough start. And then if you watch the episode where the Titans finally get a win against Arizona in week 5, and he says, guys are celebrating like they've never won a game before. Like, act like you've been here. Like, I'm all excited too, but so I think that's him just always challenging himself and always wanting to get better. And you want that in your young quarterback. You never want him to be satisfied with just, hey, that was good enough. And that brings me to film study, because Cam Ward is always the first person in the building. Titans fans know that. He's dedicated to his film study. And on this quarterback series, he talks about how he loves studying film because at one time he didn't know how to do it. Now he knows how to do it and he loves it. So from a former NFL quarterback, Matt, give us a 30,000 foot view for the average viewer of what studying film actually looks like. Cause it's not just turning on the game like we do. Hit me with a few like keys that you're looking for just for the average viewer. What does studying film look like?
Yeah, it really depends on kind of what the focus is that day for his study, right? For the subject matter that he's really trying to do a deep dive in, especially for this offseason. I could imagine for Cam Ward as an example for this offseason, probably did a deep dive where, on specific days or at least for an entire week, spent the whole week just saying, all right, I'm going to watch all of Daboll's offense from the Giants from the past handful of years, and I'm going to go through it incrementally. What does he like to call on first and second down? What does he like to call on first and second down pro personnel? What does he like to call on first and second down 11 personnel? What's he like to call on first and second down 10 right personnel where it's like 5 wides out there? What are his tendencies on second and long situations? Then third and short, third and medium, critical, gotta have it moments. Mm-hmm. All right, now are there themes and patterns that I notice in the high red zone or fringe area? Right? Then are there patterns that I see in the low red zone? Oh yeah, and critical moments coming out from the end zone. What does that look like? What has our team or his philosophy in the past been like there? Then there's the 4-minute protocol. What's that? 2-minute, right? So you're trying to just establish, again, like as an example for him to kind of do his background work on Coach Daboll and to start to kind of see the game through the lens in which now this language and conversation is going to take place more often. So the film question, that's like a loaded question because that can vary on a given day what the focus is, emphasis is. If we were in season, it would be very structured, right? Where like the first day of film, right, would be, hey, of course you're going to recapture just like what took place on Sunday, but then you're immediately going to start to just kind of like get fresh with just what are we expecting to see? So it's like, let's just kind of skim through the last 3 to 4 games of our next opponent just to kind of see like the players, the overall shell of the defense, certain things that might just pop up, like just watching vicariously as kind of like a fan at first, right? That being said, you're also taking note of like, oh, hey, it's Coach Spags, right? So it's like, we know going into these next 4 games that we're just watching, Spags is a certain way about how he likes to line up, how he likes to cry the line of scrimmage, how he likes to play a lot of man coverage, a lot of switch and rotation, last minute, definitely an over-aggressive guy, especially when you cross midfield. So now you're starting to place those things of like, these are the characteristics that we know of this defensive coordinator. Let's see if those things hold true. And then the whole game happens of like, this is what he's done recently. What has he done in the past? What has he done to us in the past? What has he done to other young quarterbacks like myself in the past? So this is just how deep that rabbit hole can get. And really for a young quarterback and for a quarterback coach and offensive coordinator like Coach Daboll, it's all about just like, listen, the elephant is huge. So let's just take small bites. Let's focus on the here and now. And ultimately, it's all about just building momentum, right, and positive outcomes for the quarterback to then just to accumulate knowledge over a long period of time to where at that point you are a quarterback, right, that has just complete command and control. And you're never really surprised by anybody or anything because you've kind of been there and done that, right, through practice, through the games. And that's also, too, where, like, a lot of credit will go with Daboll and Saleh with just their conversations with practice. How can they properly challenge this young man to saying, hey, this isn't exactly what our defense does, but today we're doing this just to give you a look, to go through the process of what it's like to shift your protection, to make sure that you're taking care of yourself here, to change this play in a critical situation. Hey, let's just give the guy the play sheet and see what he comes up with, right? So there's so much nuance and variation and just collaborative creativity that takes place during this time period. Cam Ward has to do his own due diligence and go into things that he's interested in. And I think most often than not too, I think what like a lot of really good quarterbacks that I've been around, they seem to always kind of like focus on, yeah, the stuff they do is that really well is great, but it's also kind of like, what are things that I have struggled with in the past that I know if I don't correct, teams are going to continue to call that against me, you know, and until I prove that I can play against this style or this pressure or play in this situation, hey, those themes are going to repeat themselves very consistently. So it's a lot of just making sure that you don't repeat, you know, past mistakes. And, you know, it sounds like a lot of life, like a life coach, right? You know, and like, it's the same themes, right? Just through the game and the lens of football.
And that's why they call it the toughest position in sports to play. You just laid it out as just eloquently as you did as far as film study. But let's look at Cam Ward specifically, because you mentioned things that you might struggle with that a defensive coordinator might come back to, or things that you need to get better at, this, that, and the other. From year one to year two, we saw that Cam Ward last 4 to 6 games under the direction of Mike McCoy after Brian Callahan was fired, got a little better, settled down, had some really nice statistics to end the year. But looking at it from a former quarterback's perspective, what do you see out of Cam that you think needs to improve, maybe mechanic wise on the field, that you think would help him make that jump to year two a little bit better?
I think mechanically, you know, I wasn't too concerned from what I saw from him. I thought, you know, at times he would maybe throw the football too hard, but that was also because he wasn't responding to what the defense was doing. He was reacting to what the defense is doing, you know, and that reaction is like secondary, like, oh, I got to rip it, right? And it's more of like, hey, I respond. Oh, that's what they did. This is my answer. That's how we got to do, and that's how we got to have our mentality moving forward for him, you know, as just a personality, because he's always going to have that quick twitch. He's always going to have that explosive, like at any play, he can get this done for us in a big way. And now it's really about like, hey, Cam, I know that you're talented as hell. I know that we're going to blow the top off of defenses at times, and I know that you're going to cut some up. But I also want you to be like boringly sexy. I really do want you to say like, hey, when you see this Mike backer drop and get depth immediately, I know that you can fit the seam between him and the safety, but check it down, get 7, and then don't worry, I'll call it again for you later in the game, and then you can rip the seam when that Mike starts to get a little lazy, you know? So those are the things that I think are so impressive. That's like the stuff that I saw Matt Ryan do at such a high rate, is that he just continue to take the profit no matter how sexy or unsexy it was. And that's what was amazing. And that's where, like, when he won the MVP, Devontae Freeman was like the 3rd best receiver we had on the team, our running back, right? You know, even Patrick DeMarco, our fullback, you know, at times was like, man, he ended the game with 45 yards receiving. Like, how the hell did that happen, right? So it's like, you know, that's where it's like you see the growth of the position, and also like Matt Ryan knowing that, like, yeah, like I probably could have fitted in that window, but it really didn't make sense. We're going to take 3 here. We're going to go up 10, and we're going to take care of business. Now we're going to start leaning on them, right? And now they're going to have to take some chances to get back in the game. And, oh, yeah, now we got man-to-man coverage against Julio Jones, and I'm going, right? So now that he has a guy like Carnell Tate and a guy like Ao Manor, right, from a year ago, I usually say his name super clean, and I just totally snafu'd it today. But
I screw it up every time I say it too.
You know, and he's a damn good football player, but like he's got a little bit more versatility now with Calvin Ridley, with Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, you know, they got a great mixture of players now to go along with his style that I think fits really well. And, you know, he's got the big body frame guy, and I like Ray, we could throw it out outside. Carnell Tate's going to be a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. It seems like he's going to do a little of everything from like that outside position, but wouldn't be shocked if he plays a lot of slot. Takes a lot of pressure off of Calvin Ridley now too. Should expect to see him, you know, in a little bit more of a supportive role, but in a weird way, probably more productive in that role for him. And I think overall, just, it's about like the boring plays. It really is. Like, make the game boring as hell and then go from there.
And Titans fans know that to be true watching the first episode of the quarterback series on Netflix, where Cam tells Callahan, I'm not going to take a sack. Callahan says, don't take a sack. And they call the play and he takes a sack.
Yeah.
And the quarterback's coach pulls him aside and says, you got to check it down there. You have to just check it down and not be a hero, basically. So some things that we've seen Cam grow in, we want to see him grow even more in. Talking to Matt Sims right now, co-host of Sims Complete, wherever you find your podcast, just make sure you subscribe, follow him, a great show, and former NFL quarterback giving us all these great insights. We appreciate you so much, Matt. My name is Chris Belcher. This is the Bleav in Titans podcast. We would appreciate a 5-star rating and a review and a subscription if you haven't already. Matt, before we get out of here, I would be remiss if I didn't talk to you about the ever-changing coaching carousel with the Tennessee Titans. It seems like it's been I'm not even going to get into the Mike Vrabel stuff and the Brian Callahan and all that. I want to talk specifically about Robert Saleh, the new head coach, along with the combination offensive coordinator Brian Daboll and defensive coordinator Gus Bradley. Now, you said on the Sims Complete podcast that Cam Ward's got a chip on his shoulder, and you like that. Robert Saleh has said that Cam Ward has a chip on his shoulder, but you have to believe that these three coaches, who you mentioned Daboll and his failure, I guess, with the Giants not doing well there, and Saleh, we know how that ended with the Jets. I'm a second chances guy, but I feel like Titans fans are a little hesitant when we're bringing in these guys. What do you think as far as bringing this trio together? How does that bode well for the future of the Titans franchise?
Yeah, I think it bodes really well. And I think really just football fans in general, we've gotten to that point now where unless it's like the number one offensive coordinator that's available, it's just not good enough, you know? And, the truth is that, yes, in some cases, Mike Macdonald wise, it's like, man, it's just, wow, it's all clicking and it's unbelievable. First time head coach. And this guy's just got it all rolling for us. It's unbelievable. Saleh, I think, really did a great job in New York. I think New York lacked a little. Well, one, I think Saleh, unfortunately, just gave too much power to Aaron Rodgers. And that was his first mistake. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers just basically recreating the team that he was complaining with in Green Bay, in New York, and then thinking that the results would change. So that was a little disappointing, right? And also, too, just like their relationship in general, like Aaron wouldn't let Saleh be his energetic self, right? Like I still remember the day where he pushed him on the sideline and was just kind of like, Aaron, like that's who he is. Yeah. And if you're not letting him be him, like that is just dumb. Right. And that's why it kind of just imploded, because no one could actually be themselves. You had to fall in line with Aaron Rodgers. And it was a complete disaster, because I thought defensively they did a lot of good things. I think they were really actually a pretty tough football team. And I think they were designed well structurally. They just kind of swung and missed on a quarterback and honestly empowered him too much. So that, I think, ultimately, though, is a great lesson for Saleh, right? Yeah, no doubt you want a star quarterback, but at the same time, you got to keep your identity and your pulse to like why you got the position in the first place.
Sure.
And we're going to see this more often than not as we move forward in football, that, we're going to see guys get second, third, and, hopefully fourth chances, right? Especially when they're young coaches, because, the truth is, if Saleh didn't get a job this year, he's going to get a job next year, because he's a damn good coach on the defense side of the football. They're always going to be prepared. They're always going to play hard. And it was only a matter of time. So I think, for him personally, I think it's all about just like, don't listen to the noise, stay very, very isolated, and really believe in what you believe in, coach the hell out of the guys, focus on your defense, and make sure that you're pushing and challenging the offense to continue to grow and mold with their young quarterback. Because ultimately, that will be how his success determined, is how tough they are on defense and how talented their young quarterback progresses these next few years. So it's really kind of like hey, Daboll, like it's a great situation and all that, but like you got to make this work for us, and we're going to help you do that by, of course, drafting a guy like Carnell Tate. Now it's just like put the plan in place, and let's continue to just build for this young man moving forward, and we'll continue to surround more talent around our football team as we go.
ownership and GM, I mean, has given Saleh full support, especially with Daboll and Gus Bradley coming in, and of course Cam Ward. So we hope, again, I believe in second chances.
Yeah.
I think that Saleh deserves a second chance. I think you laid it out perfectly with the Jets situation. Daboll wanted Cam Ward with the Giants last year, didn't get him, now has got him. So I think everybody is just motivated, and that bodes well for a franchise, Matt, that is struggling to get wins and struggling to find success. 3 wins each of the last 2 seasons. Haven't been to the playoffs since 2021 and looking to get back, and Saleh may be the guy to do it. Matt Sims, thank you, brother. I appreciate you hopping on tonight and making the time for us here on the Bleav in Titans podcast.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much. And you know what? I'm actually going to add one more note too, because I just, for Titans fans, like just as I think about this football team and in general, and something that I noticed a little bit in New York is that just like the establishing the identity through the running game a little bit more than what Daboll was able to do in New York, I think is very, very important, right? For Cam Ward, for Saleh, for the style in which they're constructed right now with young skill players, they need to have an attitude up front. They need to push people around, and they need to give Cam Ward opportunities to line up under center, get some great play action passes, and to really just like unload from there and be aggressive, right? So I would definitely really be focused on early on in the season, September and October, of like, what is the Tennessee Titans focus through the run game? Because I really do think that really does just like, it settles a lot for your football team if you can control the line of scrimmage offensively, especially for a young quarterback, knowing that he has that asset on his football team.
Very few teams in the NFL last year had a 1,000-yard receiver and a 1,000-yard rusher. Titans quietly had that in Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard also ran for 1,000 yards the year before that. Nobody talking about it.
No one. That's why I thought Brian Callahan got fired actually a little prematurely. Like I would have liked to seen him finish the year out last year, in my opinion, because I thought there was like things that I saw that went well. And you got to think too, man, if 2 years ago, if Will Levis doesn't make some of those plays early in the year, it probably changes the whole season. But again, that is how thin that line is in the NFL, and how some of those early games are very, very important on the imprint of the season.
It certainly is. Titans starting out 0-4 last year before getting their first win. Hopefully, as the schedule rolls out this year, Jets, Eagles, Giants, Ravens to kick off the season. Hopefully that's not an 0-4 start. We'll see. Matt Sims, what do you think? Are we going to go 0-4 to start the season?
No, I was thinking about it too. I'm like, all right, so Jets, Eagles, Giants, Ravens.
Yep. It's home, away to start the season.
Well, I like the fact that they're playing the Jets early. I think that's good for them.
Yep.
Eagles, honestly, that's a well-timed matchup for them too, right? Yep. Because even though that the Eagles are quote unquote probably like, if you would think the better or experienced roster, that would be a good time to get them as they're kind of getting their feet underneath them with Sean Mannion. So I think that's a really good one too. The Giants game, that's going to be fascinating too, because I feel like by then we'll know like Harbaugh's just like, okay, yep, he's nuts. We're going crazy here for
sure.
So yeah, it's an interesting matchup here, and again, like that's where like on paper, I actually think that's that's not a crazy start to the season for them, those 4 matchups.
2-2, 3-1 is what we'd like to see. We don't want to see 0-4 again, but we'll be right here to
split them.
That's it. Split them. That's it. Just
give me 2, Utah. Give me 2.
That's all we ask for is just improvement. We're going to be right here all season long to talk about it on the Bleav in Titans podcast. Sims Complete is the podcast where you can find Matt Sims and his dad, Phil Sims. Make sure you go check it out wherever you find your podcast. Brand new episode that dropped about second-year quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, et cetera. Go check it out. It's a great listen. Matt, again, I appreciate you taking the time for us, man.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Titans fans out there. Bleav in Titans. Good luck this season. We'll be, kind of rooting for you, but I am a Giants fan, so, that week 3 matchup, I will not be rooting for you guys.
I'll let you have a slide on that one. You can root for another 16, all right? 16-1,
That's right.
Totally fine.
That's right.
All right. Thank you guys so much for checking out the podcast. My name is Chris Belcher. This has been another edition of the Bleav in Titans podcast. Rate, review, subscribe on the way out. We would appreciate that so much. And until next time, tighten up.